This is Orange Nation Overtime with Steve Infante and Paulie Sibilia.
Welcome into Orange Nation Overtime alongside Paulie Sibilia. I'm Steve Infante. Another game day here in Syracuse. The non-conference finale set for tonight between Syracuse and Stonehill. We'll get into that here in a little bit, Paulie, but we started the show talking about the Northeastern game from Saturday. It was almost a carbon copy of what we saw against Mercyhurst. Comfortable lead. You never really felt like Syracuse was in danger of losing the game, but the opponent, in this case Northeastern, hit a bunch of shots down the stretch, got to within 5, and the margin of victory was affected. Syracuse only wins by 8, and as we all know, in this day and age of the net rankings, the analytics don't look all too favorably on that, and as a result, some fans were disappointed over the weekend, and it spilled over into our show today.
Yeah, I hate the net ranking that it's, I think they maybe should do it more like the college football playoff, and maybe this is the first, after the first of the year is when they release it to the public for the first time. So,
well, either way, regardless of when they release it, Syracuse would still be where Syracuse is, which is in the low 90s, kind of hovering right around there.
Do you think we'd still be getting the calls though?
If the net ranking was already out at this point and Syracuse is in the 90s, then yes. I think if we didn't know, probably not. I think you would look at it and be like, well, they're not playing great, but they're winning games. That's all that really matters right now. Win is a win. You look at their resume as a whole, they've only got 4 losses right now. If they win tonight, they will win tonight. They're going to be 9-4, and they beat a team that we look at as a really good win, the win over Tennessee, and they lost a game that they probably shouldn't have, and that's the Hofstra game. And so their resume is kind of neutral at the moment, right? And we talked about this on the show today, that they've got more than 80% of their quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities still ahead of them in January and February in ACC play. Ken Pom is predicting that 15 of their 18 conference games will be either quad 1 or quad 2. 7 quad 1 opportunities as it stands right now and 8 quad 2 opportunities. The opportunities are there. So to your point, no, I don't know that fans would necessarily be fired up after these close wins to the degree that they are right now, because they see in real time how it affects the net ranking.
Yeah. Steve, last year, end of December, Syracuse was 177, according to what I'm looking at right now. And they finished in the 84 to 90 range is what they fluctuated through midseason, right? You can make a significant jump in the net rankings if you play well in conference.
Yes.
And that's available still.
And I think especially this year, because it seems like the ACC is better, and Syracuse right now has a dozen or so teams ahead of them in the conference. So yes, if they play well, they're going to beat teams that are ahead of them, and they're going to make up ground, and they're going to pass those teams.
And I'm trying to think if they had a quad 1 win last year, and I don't recall that they did.
If I'm looking at their resume right now, no, they didn't, because remember they had that long streak. They lost 16 or 17 quad 1 opportunities in a row. So they did not have a quad 1.
They went from 177 to 90 without a quad 1 win. So the opportunity to move up is there in the net rankings.
They had after the first of the year, they had 2 quad 2 wins, one over Cal away, and one over Florida State in the ACC tournament. The quad 1s, they were, 5, 6. They were 0 for 7 in quad 1 opportunities after the first of the year.
They have more than that in opportunities still ahead of them, right? According to the net rankings.
Yeah, last year, they had in the regular season, they had, and this spoke to the ACC last year, they had 3, 6, 9. They had 10 opportunities after January 1st in either quads 1 or 2. This year they have 15 as it stands right now. And then they picked up 2 more in the ACC tournament.
Right.
So, this year they could have 17, 18 opportunities here moving forward, depending on how deep they go in the ACC tournament. So I think some of it speaks to that the conference is better this year. And some of it is obviously the way that the schedule fell, the fact that they've got Carolina twice, and Virginia's away, and Louisville's away, and Duke is away. I mean, Duke would have been a quad 1 either way, but you get my point that the scheduling fell in a way that the month of February is going to be very challenging for Syracuse, but with it, comes great opportunity.
Yeah, and you just got to win games in the ACC. Like the beauty pageant wasn't there against the lower level teams this year, and so now you just got to go out and win games.
Yeah. I tell you what, our first segment today, we had several phone calls. I think we had 3 or 4 calls in our first segment today. Let's just get a taste of what some of the callers were saying coming off the weekend.
Well, I guess I'll keep it short here. It's tough to enjoy the games, as Paulie just said, as we need to do, when what we see does not indicate much growth. And I'm talking big picture here. I'm not talking about December. I'm not talking about November. I'm talking about what we have seen with this team. And when you watch them try to run a half-court offense, it's tough to watch. When you watch a guy shoot a free throw and he's right-handed and his right hand is starting to the left side of his left leg, it's tough to watch. I hope this team gets it together. I like Coach Autry. He makes them play really hard on defense, and I respect that. And I hope they can get it together. But, man, they got to improve the free throw shooting, and I hope they change the mechanics with some of these guys because it's tough. And I like William Kyle because he plays great defense, he hustles, and he brings a lot to the table. I hope he can improve the free throw shooting, but, I mean, the three-point shooting, too, they need to improve the shooting.
I was just thinking about the return of Donnie Freeman and how much that could change this team. I mean, he's not like an average player. He's 6'10", 5-star. He was the best player on the team and the best free throw shooter. And, things could really change if he comes back 100%.
Hey guys, sorry to frame this type of conversation up, but just if in the event, we're not playing meaningful games in March and we have to, look for a new coach, I'm just curious, how do you guys feel that how Syracuse is perceived amongst, non-Syracuse biased people, in terms of we obviously never had to go through a national coach search. And do you think another Power 4 basketball head coach would leave their school for Syracuse, or do they not view Syracuse as how we feel Syracuse is?
No, Syracuse is, I think the fan base looks more negatively on it than the national. People outside of it, Syracuse. If Syracuse was as bad as everybody acts like it is right now, they wouldn't have been invited to that Players Era tournament.
So just to kind of compare it, Kevin Willard was at Maryland. I almost feel like Syracuse is maybe a comparable level to Maryland, and Kevin Willard left Maryland to Villanova. Do you see someone looking up to Syracuse, it's a step up from a school like a Maryland or another Power 4 school? It's interesting if we're going to look to hire out of the family. I'm just curious, would any Power 4 head coach leave their school for Syracuse?
Yes, apparently Rick Pitino would leave anywhere to come coach here. Mark, didn't you know that?
Of course.
Yes. I mean, it's an interesting question. There's a pecking order, certainly. Syracuse is not in that top tier. They're not in the bottom tier. They're somewhere in the middle.
I think they're in the upper middle.
Okay. They're upper middle class.
You can win here.
Yeah. Yes. That's probably fair. Upper middle class. I would agree with that analogy. And I would agree with you, Paulie, that I don't know that fans would be this upset / this concerned about the resume if we didn't know about the net right now. I mean, you could guess the net, and people could say, okay, well, their resume isn't great, but it's not disastrous. I think a lot of people looked at that Hofstra game as disastrous. No way they can make the tournament now. I will point out that last year there were several teams that were outside the top 100 in the net late in December that ended up making the NCAA tournament as an at-large. Several teams from the Big East were examples. There were also multiple teams in the top 20 of the net at this time last year that didn't make the NCAA tournament. So it can go both ways. And is it, obviously would have been better if they didn't lose to Hofstra. Is it ideal to lose to Hofstra? Of course not. Is it ideal to be in the 90s at the moment? No. Can you recover from it? Yes, you can.
The only way they going into the ACC would have been different is this. You probably can't slip up to BC or someone like that this year. But also, if they had won against Houston, say they got that Houston win, you'd have to win 2 or 3 of the quad 1 games. It's the exact same.
Yeah, you can't go through conference play and not win any big games. Yeah. I mean, they play the games for a reason, right? You've got to. We look at the analytics for a reason, but you also, at the end of the day, you got to win some games. You can't just be close. You got to win some games.
If you beat Duke on the road you might be in the tournament. Like that might be enough to get you in with 2 quad 1 wins, and you haven't lost any bad ones. You don't know.
That's one of those that it does feel like it counts for 2 if you're able to beat Duke on the road. We did have Eric Devendorf on our show today. He's been on the call of several Syracuse games lately on the TV side of things. So we asked him for his thoughts about the Northeastern game and really this stretch of the last 3 or 4 games where Syracuse hasn't played all that well since the Tennessee game. We asked for his takeaways on what he's seen out of the Orange this recent stretch.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess in all these, last 3-4 games, they had opportunities to throw a knockout punch, so to speak, right? Last, Saturday against Northeastern, they were up 10, 12, 15. They just got to be able to throw that knockout punch and get 20, 25 and really put them away. They haven't been able to do that, these last 3-4 games, and obviously against Hofstra with the loss. But I think, Northeastern, they did a great job of, penetrating, getting to the paint every single time. It seemed like those guys were getting 2 feet in the paint, pretty consistent. And in the second half, they were able to get in there and then kick out and make threes. And that's really why they're able to get back into the game. And they obviously got to the free throw line as well. But you know what? I don't want to be too negative on Syracuse. They got a lot of stuff to work on. I think offensively, it was good to see Nate George get back on track. He's a guy that we've really been waiting on, 22, 6, and 6. If he can play, up, you don't have to get 22 points every single game, but if he can stay within the, 14, 15-point range, 6, 7 assists, 4 or 5 rebounds, I mean, this Syracuse basketball team would be totally different. And then Cayenne, I thought he played outstanding coming off the bench and just being a microwave off the bench, going in, attacking, looking to score, and they hit their free throws, So I'm trying to look at the positives. They just have to have more consistency, with offense and defense. Early on, I think defensively we were like, man, these guys are really good. Then it tailed off, and now you're seeing, what happened against Northeastern. And then offensively, they have the guys and the tools, but they just got to figure out some execution in the half court and then be more efficient and get easier looks. It seems like every shot in the half court sometimes is a hard look or a one-on-one look. If you can get a little bit more flow in the offense to get some easier looks, it'll probably help them out be a little bit more efficient on the offensive end.
To a guy who's never played basketball, when the offense looks like it's struggling, to me, it looks like they're starting their offensive possession closer to the half-court line than they are to the basket. How do you prevent that from happening 100%. As a guard?
No, you're 100% right. It's hard to start your offense all the way out by half court. Now look how much further you are away from the rim. Even if they could just get it, maybe, a foot outside the three-point line and then, try to work from there. But, I mean, the guards have to do a better job of getting to their spots and then holding their position, playing against that ball pressure. And honestly, Nate George, JJ, those guys, Cayenne, that shouldn't be a problem for them. Just being able to get to a spot, to start the offense, closer to the rim. And I think that'll help as well, just being able to get closer to the rim and not have to, change direction and do all that when you're further away from the rim.
You look at these second halves of late, Eric, and, we've seen time and time again, and again, it happened against Northeastern. Northeastern made, 7 threes in the second half and cut it down to 5. We saw it against Mercyhurst. They made a bunch of shots late. All this focus on the net, do you think that is impacting this team at all? Do you think they're playing tight down the stretch of games because, okay, it's an 8-point game, but we need it to be a 16-point game or whatever the case may be? Are they focused too much on that kind of stuff and not just worrying about the game? Are you seeing that at all?
I mean, obviously it comes into play, right? You don't want to just win these games. You want to be able to win by as much as you can, and they just haven't been able to finish like, they wanted to. I don't know what the specific message in there is from Coach Red, but you just want to have some consistency in the energy and effort. I mean, how many times has Coach Red talked about the energy levels, dip in and drop in? So they have to find some consistency right there. And I think if they could do that, now both offense and defense will start to be better. But it just starts with the energy level. If you're up, then keep on getting up. That you have to do that. Now if you go back and win these games by 9 points or 8 points, whatever it is, you're still going to drop in the net or go up or whatever it is. So you got to find some more consistency with the energy and intensity and then really finishing these games. And I think tonight versus Stonehill, and no discredit to Stonehill, they're not a very good team. I think they've only won one game versus a real Division I team in Lafayette. But Syracuse should go out here and try to dominate on both ends of the floor, and non-conference play on a high note, and then go in with some confidence, riding high against Clemson, who's going to come in and they're tough. Coach Barnell he's going to have his guys ready, and they're going to come out and play hard. So Syracuse has to be able to match that and some more.
How hard is it, Eric, to get up for a game like this? You're a different animal, I know, but is it hard for players to get up for games like this? And are you worried maybe this team thinks it can flip a switch?
You can't play like that. You can't play like, oh, okay, we got to flip the switch now. We can play, bad against Stonehill, and then hopefully we play good against Clemson. It doesn't work that way. You're trying to build good habits. You're trying to progress and improve each game, and you got to have some positive things come out of it. You can't just keep going up and down and do. It's hard to play like that, as a player, but let alone as a team. If everyone's really doing that, and it's going to be a lot of inconsistency like we've seen so far, but Look, Paulie, you're asking the wrong guy. Like you said, if you get a chance to play basketball and step out on the floor, I don't care if it's 45-year-old men who haven't played in 10 years. I'm going to go as hard as I can, and that should be this mindset for these guys, And look, I hate bringing the NIL part in, but you're getting paid to do it now, so it's a big incentive behind it. And then if you do really well, you can probably get paid more the next year. So they already have incentives, but they shouldn't even need it. Every time you step out on the floor, they should be given everything they got.
We finally got an update on Donnie Freeman regarding a target date, and we're hearing that he is expected to play against Clemson on New Year's Eve. How does the team look differently with him out there? I mean, what kind of impact are you expecting Donnie to make when he's back out there? The positive and the negative, right? Because there's going to be some guys that aren't going to be playing as much. The minutes have to be handed out a certain way. So what's the trickle down effect when Donnie comes back?
Well, they're a much better team. I mean, that's almost 19 points a game and 8 rebounds, something like that, and then. Obviously they haven't had much front court scoring. I know Kyle's been doing a good job of being efficient around the rim, but he's not the guy who you could throw it to every single time in half court and tell him, go get a bucket. Donnie's the guy who could do that. So you get your front court guy back, arguably your best player back, and it's going to help him with everything. I think I was listening to Red talk in the presser. It helps them with their floor spacing, their versatility, on both ends of the floor. And honestly, I think if Donnie locks in defensively, he can be a really good defender because he moves well. He can block shots. He's not overly athletic, but he's athletic. And he's smart. I think he's a guy who, as a leader, he needs to step up and communicate a little bit more, but having him back on the floor, Syracuse needs that more than ever right now.
Eric, someone in the chat wants to know if effort is on the players or the coaches. And Jim Boeheim wasn't a guy who would get you guys all fired up before a game, was he? From what I saw, it was, hey, if we run our stuff, we'll be fine, and you guys would go out and crush people. So is it on the players or is it on the coaches?
I mean, look, the coaches have to be able to keep them engaged and make sure they know what's going on in situations, defensively, offensively, all that. So they got to prep them, but the players have to go out there and do it. They have to execute. They have to. Be able to communicate, talk on the floor, and give the effort and energy. At this stage, again, it's so much that you're playing for as far as getting paid, and we want to win championships, whatever it is, notoriety. The coaches shouldn't have to coach energy and effort, not at this level. Like that, you're talking middle school and maybe high school on the low end. Coaching energy and effort. These guys we shouldn't have to be talking about that right now, especially one game away from ACC play. These guys should be able to go out there and play hard every single time. And that's kind of in the beginning. It's funny because that's what we were saying. We were like, those first 4 games, you're like, man, these guys are playing hard, flying around. Defensively, they're unbelievable. We're going to, offensively, we can wait a little bit because it might take a little bit longer. But like energy, effort, locked in defensively, those guys were doing it. So I think right now that's why it's kind of disappointing seeing those inconsistencies of that effort because we've seen it and we know that they're capable of doing it.
You brought up Nathan George and his improved play against Northeastern. What did you like about his game in particular against the Huskies? Because, again, it's been up and down for him, right? And it's not just scoring the basketball. They don't expect him to score 22 points a game. But what did you like most, I guess, about that performance against Northeastern?
It wasn't hesitant. It wasn't like thinking about it, just being aggressive. And just look to score. If you look to score, it'll open up his overall game. His passing ability is going to be better when he's a threat, attacking the basket. And he's the best free throw shooter on the team. So he has to be able to do that. Be a threat, attacking the basket, and then everything will open up. And I think he did that, it looked like every single possession. I don't know how many times he got to the free throw line, but it was almost double digits, if I'm not mistaken. But
12 for 14 from the line.
Yeah, 12 or 14. But every single time he was either was coming off a pick and roll or a late closeout, and he was just attacking it, and that opened up everything for him. And I think it made him a lot more confident, because he was getting to the line so much and knocking those down. So he was just in his flow a little bit more. But he just has to be aggressive and stop overthinking, because he's a good player. We saw it last year at Georgia Tech. He was really, really good, and he's capable of going out there and having big-time games.
I want to ask you a personal question, Eric. We all complain about the offense, and it looks stagnant and whatnot to us. Would you want to play in this kind of offense?
I mean, for me, it's a lot of one-on-one pick and roll, so I'd be all right. I'm going to be able to get by my man. And I think even when we're playing for Coach Boeheim, he kept it simple, but he just had guys who could break down their man, and then it was just about making a decision. We always had guys who could really do that at a high level. Johnny Flynn, I was pretty good at it. Andy Routens, you name it, as far as the guards go. So these guys have to be able to, if they're in that situation where they're playing like that, you got to be able to get by and then and make a good decision. But when you don't got guys who are, doing that at a high level, you want to try to create some advantage where they're coming off a down screen or a pick or whatever it is, drive and kick, so they're getting easier looks. It's hard to sustain a whole year, shooting hard shots in half court.
Eric, at the beginning of this interview, you said that there's room for improvement. There's a lot to work on, and there is. Tonight they take on a Stonehill team, and this is no disrespect to Stonehill, but, ranked 359 in Ken Pom. This team is not as good as Northeastern. This team is not as good as Monmouth or Hofstra. With that being said, what are you looking for out of this game tonight from a Syracuse perspective? What do you want to see them, address or work on heading into conference play?
Just dominate. Honestly, both ends of the floor, ball pressure, overwhelm them, Stonehill. Get turnovers, get out in transition when when you're playing in the half court, drive it down their throat, every single time. Get it in the paint. William Kyle, flash in the middle, turn, go up high and dunk on them every single time. That's what they should be able to do that every single time. Make them super uncomfortable defensively, turn the ball over, get out and play, and then in the half court, just drive the ball every single time, and then you'll have opportunities because they're packing it in so much to be able to kick out and have open looks. Hopefully Nate Kings, Cayenne, whoever it is, can knock some down. But just be super aggressive and don't even think that let them think that they have a chance. I think that's what they did with the St. Joe's and Hofstra, obviously, and Mercyhurst and Northeastern. These guys believe that they could play. You can't even let them believe that, and you got to set the tone right from the get.
Last one from me. We talk so much about the NCAA tournament. Is this a tournament team? Where are you right now with that question? Is it 50-50? Is it, you need to see more? Where do you sit right now with whether or not this is a tournament team or has the potential, to be a tournament team?
Well, yeah, it is. It is 50-50 right now. I obviously want to see conference play, but, are they going to, play like they were in the beginning? 4 games. I know it was against, teams that weren't as competitive, but even, the run in Vegas, they were there, besides Iowa State. So if they play like that, I said, yeah, they have a chance to. Those first whatever games in ACC play, that's a favorable schedule. They can win all those games if they play how they're capable of playing. So if they do that, I say yes. But if they've been playing how, these last 3-4 games, it'll be tough. It's up in the air.
Again, that's former Q star Eric Devendorf on the show with us. Syracuse Stonehill tonight, 7 o'clock tip inside the Dome, the final regular season game before the conference slate starts up with Clemson on New Year's Eve. And Donnie Freeman expected back for that game. We found that out over the weekend. I think that was kind of what we assumed all along, was that he would be back around the time of the Clemson game. They're going to get him back just in time for conference play.
Yeah, and couldn't come at a better time, right? You need your best player in conference play. You got to hope he stays healthy, and you got to hope he's able to do what he was doing before. They were blowing teams out when he was on the court.
They were. And we should mention this about Stonehill. This team is not as good as Northeastern or Monmouth or Hofstra or St. Joe's for that matter. This team, you look at all the metrics, Ken Palm, on down, Bartorvik, they're in the 300s. This should not be a close game tonight. Syracuse should go out, take care of business, get into the holiday break, and then they get Donnie back in time for that Clemson game.
Yeah, let's win by 400. You think that's possible? Well, what do you think the net rank jump would be if you won 402?
The system would explode if that happened.
If you clamp down. You only give up 2 points.
I'm saying, win by 20 or so. Yeah. Win by 20 plus in this game. I think that would feel appropriate. You're right. They were blowing teams out, and then they got away from it after the Tennessee game. Ken Palm's got this as a 22-point win. 80-58 is the projection. Go out, win this game by 20 plus.
Did you know that in a Dickens fairy tale, Steve, that it popularized the term Merry Christmas? It was used before, but it was used so much in the book that it became popular.
I did not know that.
Did you also know, how many times do you think Scrooge utters the famous phrase, bah humbug, in the movie? Because it seems like a lot, right?
Do you know the answer?
No, Steve, I'm asking without the answer.
You want me to guess? I'm going to say 12.
2 times.
Really?
That's it. Well, only twice in the book.
Twice in the book. Interesting. And that's what we think of when we think of Scrooge. We think of bah humbug. Okay. So you did know the answer.
And did you know that a turkey back then that was given to the Cratchits was considered a lavish meal?
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great insight. As always, Paulie, we appreciate it. You're all dressed up because we've got a game tonight to attend.
And you're in a quarter zip.
I am. It's my uniform.
Yeah. How many do you have? Seriously.
How many do I have?
Will you count them for me?
Sure. I would say probably 24. Again, I hosted Bridge Street for 4 years. There were a lot of quarter zips this time of year on the show. Because I didn't wear a tie or a suit on Bridge Street. I wore a quarter zip.
I would like you to do a physical count. And bring it to me tomorrow. That's your homework.
Bring it to you tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay. I will look into that for you. In the meantime, we've got to go. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the game tonight. We're back at it tomorrow.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.